Get your hands off me, I am a customer. The marble lobby of First Heritage Bank in Tuscaloosa, Alabama went dead quiet. 40 people froze where they stood. Black man in a charcoal suit was being shoved face first against a teller counter. His cheek pressed flat against the cold stone. His glasses skidded across the floor, the EEE. Cop's knee jammed into his lower back. Shut your mouth. Boite's officer Dwight Hollis was 46 years old, 240 pounds, and his hand was wrapped around the back of Wendell Carraway's neck, like a man holding a dog, sir. My name is Wendell Carraway. I have an account at this bank. I said, shut up. A woman near the door covered her child's eyes. A young teller named Claudette stood frozen at her window, her hand hovering over the silent alarm she had already pressed 3 minutes ago, not against the customer, against the cop. You walked in here trying to cash a fake check. Hollis growled. We see your kind every day. That check is real. Officer, that money is mine. Your kind don't have money like that. Stop lying. My name is Aaron, and before I start the story, please subscribe to my channel and give this video a hype at the end if you like it. Wendell's wrists were already in cuffs. His suit jacket was torn at the shoulder. Blood ran down from a cut above his eyebrow where his face had hit the counter. His briefcase lay open on the floor. Papers scattered everywhere, important papers. Papers with letterheads most people in that lobby would have recognized if they had bothered to look. Officer, please just call the number on the check. I am not calling anything. You are going to a county lockup. Hollis yanked him upright. The crowd parted. Phones came out, cameras pointed. A teenage girl in the back was already live streaming. But what nobody in that lobby knew, not the cop, not the manager hiding in his office, not the customers filming for clout, was that the man in handcuffs had walked into that bank 90 minutes ago for one reason, one single reason. And in 12 minutes, 3 black SUVs would pull up outside that bank. And Officer Dwight, Hollis, would drop to his knees on that marble floor and beg, but we are getting ahead of the story. Let me back up. Let me tell you where this happened. Tuscaloosa, Alabama, spring of last year. A bank branch on the corner of Greensboro Avenue, 3 blocks from the county courthouse. First Heritage Bank, a regional chain with 62 branches across 4 states. Old money on the walls, brass fixtures, portraits of the founding family above the loan officers. Desks, every single portrait white, every single one is a man. This particular branch had a reputation, not a written one. The kind of reputation that lives in whispers and side eyes, in which customers got asked for 3 forms of ID and which one's got a coffee and a handshake. If you grew up in West Tuscaloosa, you knew. If you grew up in the country club neighborhoods on the east side, you did not need to know. Let me tell you about Officer Dwight Hollis, because to understand what happened that morning, you have to understand him. Hollis had been a Tuscaloosa city cop for 19 years, 2 excessive force complaints. Both dismissed, 3 civilian complaints for racial slurs, all closed with no action. A folder thick enough to choke a horse, and somehow he kept his badge. His daddy had been a cop. His granddaddy had been a sheriff's deputy in Greene County back in the days when that meant something very specific. Hollis wore the uniform like it was a family inheritance. He worked a side gig, off-duty security at First Heritage. 3 days a week, easy money. Stand in the lobby, drink the free coffee, scare off the kind of people the bank did not want walking through its doors. The branch manager, a soft little man named Rupert Maddox, paid him in cash and never asked questions. Hollis never asked any either. They had an understanding. In 19 years, Hollis had stopped, questioned, or removed 41 black customers from that lobby. He had stopped 0 white ones, not one. The number was not a coincidence. The number was the job now. Let me tell you about Wendell Carraway, because Hollis looked at him and saw a problem. What he actually saw was the most dangerous customer who had ever walked through those doors. Wendell was 51 years old, born in Pritchard, Alabama. Raised by a single mother who cleaned hotel rooms for a living, He had gone to a community college on a scholarship for poor kids. He had transferred to Tuscaloosa, finished his degree at night while working a forklift during the day by 30. He had started a small logistics company out of a rented garage by 45. That company had grown into Caraway Holdings, a private firm that handled supply chain contracts for the federal government defense, Department Homeland Security, the kind of contracts where the paperwork has stamps on it that most people will never see in their lives. He was the CEO, he was also the sole owner, and he was worth, on paper, just over $400 million, but that is not why the FBI was about to show up. That is the part most people would guess wrong. About Wendell was not famous. He did not drive flashy cars. He wore the same kind of suit your accountant wears. He drove a 4-year-old sedan. He flew commercials. The reason the FBI was coming had nothing to do with his money. It had to do with the briefcase, the one lying open on the marble floor of that lobby, the one with the papers scattered around. The one officer Dwight Hollis had not bothered to look inside before he put his knee in a man's back, because 2 weeks before that morning, Wendell Caraway had agreed to do something most rich men would never agree to do. He had agreed to be a federal cooperating witness, not against a criminal, against a bank, First Heritage. Bank had been laundering money for nearly a decade, drug money out of the Gulf Coast cash that came in dirty and left clean, hidden inside the accounts of poor black customers who never knew their names were being used. Wendell had figured it out by accident 6 months earlier, when one of his own employees, a young woman named Loretta, had come to him crying because her bank account showed a balance of $200,000 she had never deposited. He had pulled the thread. The thread had not stopped pulling. He had walked into that bank that morning with 3 things: a check for $12,000, perfectly legitimate, drawn on his own corporate account, a wire transfer request he wanted processed in person, also legitimate, also his own money, and a list of 47 account numbers tucked inside a sealed envelope in his briefcase, account numbers belonging to people who had no idea their names were on accounts holding millions of dollars in laundered cash. He was there as bait. The FBI had a team 6 blocks away in a parking garage, watching the wire transfer route through the bank's system in real time. The plan was simple. Wendell walks in. Wendell makes the deposit. The bank touches the dirty money in front of a federal magistrate's signed warrant. The FBI walks in calmly. 20 minutes after he leaves, no fuss, no drama. Nobody was hurt. That was the plan nobody had planned for Officer Dwight Hollis. Nobody had planned that a black man in a charcoal suit walking into a bank where Hollis worked security would be slammed against a counter before he ever made it to the teller window. Nobody had planned that the federal cooperating witness, the man whose testimony was about to bring down a 62-branch banking chain, was about to have his face smashed into stone on a Tuesday morning at 9:47 in front of 40 witnesses and 7 cell phone cameras, and nobody, especially not Officer Dwight Hollis, had any idea that the FBI agent in charge of the operation was already running, already pulling her sidearm, already yelling into her radio for every available unit because she had just watched, on a live feed from inside the bank, her star. Witness got assaulted by the one variable nobody had accounted for. Her name was Special Agent Renata Voss. She was 44 years old. She had been chasing First Heritage Bank for 11 years, and she was about to walk into that lobby and end Officer Dwight Hollis's career in front of every camera in the room. But first, you need to understand how it started, how Wendell Caraway, a man who could have bought that bank twice over, ended up face down on its floor, because the morning did not start with violence. It started with a polite good morning and a smile. It started, like most American tragedies do, with a man being told he did not belong somewhere he had every right to be. Let me take you back to 7 o'clock that morning. The kitchen was quiet. Wendell stood at the counter in a white undershirt and slacks. He drank his coffee black, the way his mother used to. He had not slept the night before. Not really. He had lain in the dark for 6 hours and stared at the ceiling. He kept thinking about the moment when he would slide the wire transfer slip across the counter. The moment when the bank would touch the dirty money in front of a federal warrant. The moment when there would be no going back. He was a private man. He liked his quiet life. He liked his small house on a quiet street with a magnolia tree in the front yard. He had not asked for this, but he had not been able to walk away from it either. His daughter Josephine came down the stairs in her school uniform. She was 17. She had her mother's eyes. Her mother had died of cancer when Josephine was 9. It had been him and her against the world ever since she kissed his cheek. "Daddy, you look tired," he smiled. "I am okay, baby, just a long day ahead." She studied his face the way she always did. She did not believe him, but she did not push. He poured her a glass of orange juice. He made her toast. He drove her to school. And they listened to a gospel station because his mother used to listen to one just like it in her old Buick. When he dropped her off, he held onto her hand for a second too long. She looked back at him. "Daddy, are you sure you are okay?" "I love you, baby. I will see you tonight." She nodded. She got out. He watched her walk all the way to the front doors of her school before he pulled away. He sat in a diner parking lot for 40 minutes after that. He drank a second cup of coffee he did not want. He called agent Renata Voss at exactly 8:45. She picked up on the first ring. "Wendell, are we on?" "We are." "On, you sound tired. I did not sleep. I know nobody sleeps the night before. I want you to listen to me. If anything in that lobby feels wrong, anything, you walk out. You leave the briefcase, you leave the check, you walk out, and you go home. We can do this another day. There is no other day. Renata, I am tired of carrying this. It ends today." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "We will be 6 blocks away. You will not see us, but we will see everything. Claudette is on a wire audio only. If you need us, you say the word. Magnolia. That is the word Magnolia, okay?" "Magnolia, okay," by Wendell. "Yes, thank you for doing this. There are 47 families in this city who do not know what you are about to do for them, but I know, and I will not forget." He hung up. He sat for another 2 minutes. He thought about his mother. She had cleaned hotel rooms in Mobile for 31 years. She had raised him on cornbread and faith. She had told him one thing over and over again. "If you ever get something, baby, you make sure other people get something too." He put the car in drive. He drove to the bank. He arrived at First Heritage at 9:35. The lot was half full. He parked under a dogwood tree at the edge of the lot. He sat for a moment. With his hands on the steering wheel, he picked up the briefcase from the passenger seat. It was leather. Brown, scuffed at the corners. He had carried it for 15 years. Inside were the check, the wire request, and the sealed envelope. He took a breath. He whispered a prayer his mother had taught him. "Lord, walk with me, Lord. Walk in front of me, Lord. Do not let me lose my soul today." He got out of the car. He buttoned his suit jacket. He walked across the parking lot. He pulled open the heavy glass door of First Heritage Bank. The air conditioning hit him first. Then, the smell. Old money smells, like furniture polish and paper. The lobby was beautiful in the way old southern buildings are beautiful. Brass fixtures, a high ceiling, a row of teller windows along the back wall, a row of loan officer desks along the side. The portraits of the founding family hung above the desks in heavy gold frames. 6 white men in suits, painted across 140 years of history. Wendell did not look at them. He had stopped looking at portraits a long time ago. He got in line. There were 4 people ahead of him. The line moved slowly, Officer Dwight Hollis was leaning against the wall near the entrance. He had a paper cup of coffee in his hand. He had been watching the door since 7:30. He clocked Wendell the second he walked in. His eyes narrowed. He set the coffee down on a small table beside him. He did not move yet, he just watched. He watched the way Wendell carried the briefcase. He watched the cut of the suit. He watched the calm in the man's face. None of it sat right with him. None of it fit the picture in his head of who walked into First Heritage Bank on a Tuesday morning. In front of Wendell in the line was a white woman in expensive workout clothes. Her name was Cecily Vandermeer. She had a yoga mat slung over one shoulder. She glanced back at Wendell once. Her mouth made a small tight shape. She turned forward again. Behind Wendell was an older black man named Calvin Royston. He was 68 years old. He wore a button-down shirt tucked into khakis and a beat-up Korean War veteran's cap. He nodded at Wendell. "Morning." "Morning?" Sir, that was the whole conversation. But Calvin would remember that nod for the rest of his life. The line moved. Cecily was called to a window. She left. Wendell stepped up to the front. A young black teller named Claudette Beaufort waved him forward to her window. She was 23 years old. She had worked at this branch for 9 months. She had been a confidential FBI source for 4 of those months. Nobody at the bank knew, not her manager, not her co-workers. Certainly not. Officer Hollis. She had a wire taped to the inside of her bra and a sticky note with Agent Voss's direct number stuck to the underside of her keyboard. She had been waiting for this morning for 4 months. Her hands were steady. Her smile was, "Real good morning. Sir, how can I help you?" Wendell smiled back. "Good morning. I have a check to deposit and a wire transfer to process." He slid the papers across the counter. Claudette took them. She read the corporate name on the check, Caraway Holdings, LLC. Her stomach dropped. She kept her face neutral. She had not been told the witness's name. She had only been told a man would come in this morning and that she would know who he was when she saw the paperwork. She knew now. She began to enter the wire transfer into the system. Her fingers moved across the keyboard. The transaction routed through the bank's internal network. 6 blocks away, in a parking garage, Agent Terence Doby saw the route appear on his laptop screen. He said, "We have movement." Agent Voss leaned forward in the passenger seat of the lead SUV, eyes on standby. That was when Officer Dwight Hollis pushed off the wall and started walking across the lobby. He came up behind Wendell. He stopped 2 feet behind him. He spoke loud enough for the whole lobby to hear, "Sir, step away from the counter." Wendell turned, slowly, calmly. He had been expecting trouble all morning, but not this kind, not from a cop. The cop was supposed to be in the background. The cop was supposed to be furniture. He had not even noticed Hollis when he walked in. "I am sorry, officer." "I said step away from the counter." Claudette froze. Her fingers stopped moving. The wire transfer was halfway through. She looked at Wendell. She looked at Hollis. She moved her foot under the counter and toward the silent alarm pedal. Not the bank's alarm. The bank's alarm went to local police. Her alarm went to her phone, which was paired to a federal channel. She did not press it yet, not yet. "Officer, is there a problem?" "The problem is the check you just handed that teller is fraudulent. Put your hands behind your back." "Officer, that check is drawn on my own corporate account. I have been a customer at this bank for 11 years. Please just call the number printed on the check. I am not calling anything hands behind your back now. Calvin Royston." The old man behind Wendell stepped forward. Hey now, he was not doing anything wrong. He was just standing in line." Hollis whipped around. His face was already red. "Sir, back up or I will arrest you too." Calvin did not back up fast. "Enough." Hollis shoved him in the chest with both hands. Calvin, 68 years old, stumbled backward and crashed into a velvet rope stanchion. The brass post hit the marble floor with a loud clang. A woman in the corner gasped. A child started to cry. Phones came out. 6, then 10. Then almost every person in that lobby was filming. Wendell tried one more time. He kept his voice level, he kept his hands visible. He spoke the way his mother had taught him to speak to police when he was 9 years old. "Officer, I am asking you, please look at the check. Look at my identification. My name is Wendell Carraway. I am the CEO of Carraway Holdings. That check is mine. That money is mine." Hollis did not look at the check. He did not look at the ID. He grabbed Wendell's left arm, spun him around and slammed him face first into the counter. Wendell's head hit the stone with a sound that everyone in that lobby would hear in their sleep for weeks afterward. His glasses flew off his face and skidded across the floor. Skin above his right eyebrow split open. Blood ran down into his eye. His briefcase fell from his hand. It hit the floor and burst open. Papers spilled out. Federal letterhead, a folded warrant cover sheet, a sealed envelope marked with the seal of the United States Department of Justice. Nobody in that lobby recognized any of it for what it was. Hollis stepped on a paper as he yanked Wendell's arms behind his back. The cuffs clicked closed. Claudette pressed the alarm 3 minutes earlier than she had been told to 6 blocks away. Agent Voss's phone lit up with a text from Claudette's number. 3 words, "He is down." Voss looked at the screen. For 1/2 second, she did not move. Then she opened the door of the SUV. Go everyone now." 3 SUVs pulled out of the parking garage at the same time. Sirens off, lights off, quiet fast back in the lobby. Hollis stood Wendell upright. Blood ran down Wendell's face. His suit was torn at the shoulder. He did not say a word. He did not shout. He did not curse. He looked across the lobby and made eye contact with Claudette. He gave her one small nod. "I'm okay, hold the line." She nodded back. Her eyes were full of tears, but her hands were steady. Hollis dragged Wendell out into the center of the lobby. He spoke to the crowd like a man putting on a show. "This is what happens when you walk. And here trying to steal from honest people. This is what you get." He kicked the briefcase. The sealed envelope slid across the floor and stopped at the feet of Cecily Vandermeer, the woman in the workout clothes. She looked down at it. She saw the seal, the eagle, the words, "Department of Justice." She blinked. She looked up at Hollis. She looked at Wendell. She lifted her phone. She started filming. Her hand was shaking. A young woman in the back of the lobby, a college student named Bertie, had been live-streaming for 2 full minutes. Her stream had 6,000 viewers when Hollis grabbed Wendell. By the time Wendell hit the counter, it had 14,000. By the time Hollis kicked the briefcase, it had 31,000, and climbing comments scrolled past faster than anyone could read them. "Somebody help that man. Where are the real cops? This is going to be on the news tonight. That man did not do anything." Rupert Maddox, the branch manager, came out of his office for one moment to see what the noise was. He saw Wendell in handcuffs. He saw the briefcase open on the floor. He saw the seal on the envelope. His face went white. He turned around. He went back into his office. He shut the door. He locked it. He sat down at his desk. He started shredding documents. He would still be shredding when the federal agents kicked his door in 11 minutes later. Wendell, blood on his face, hands cuffed behind his back, looked at Hollis. He spoke very quietly, quietly enough that only Hollis could hear. "Officer, when this is over, you are going to remember this morning for the rest of your life." Hollis laughed. In his face, he put one boot on Wendell's shoulder and shoved him back down to his knees. "Is that a threat, boy?" "No, sir. That is a fact." In the parking garage 6 blocks away, Agent Doby was running the audio feed from Claudette's wire through his laptop. He had the whole exchange, every word, every shove, the sound of Wendell's head hitting the counter, the sound of Calvin Royston hitting the floor, Voss listened to it on her earpiece as the SUV raced down Greensboro Avenue. Her jaw was set. Her hand was on her sidearm. She picked up her phone and called the Tuscaloosa police chief. Directly, he answered. She said 5 words. "Your officer is on top of my federal witness." The chief tried to speak. "Agent Voss, we have not been informed of any federal—" "Pull him off or I am 90 seconds out." She hung up. She did not give him the chance to say anything else. Inside the bank, the situation was getting worse. A retired schoolteacher named Norma had walked up to Hollis. She was 62 years old. She was white. She had taught 4th grade at Westwood Elementary for 34 years. She had a voice that had stopped fights between 10-year-olds for 3 decades. "She is using it now, officer. You have not even checked his identification. That is not how this works. That is not what you are supposed to do." Hollis turned on her. "Ma'am, mind your own business. This is my business. I am a witness, and so is every person in this room." A second woman, younger, holding a phone, stepped up beside Norma. "I am recording you. I am not going to stop." "Ma'am, put the phone down." "No." Calvin Royston, back on his feet now, was holding his shoulder where he had hit the stanchion. He walked over to where Wendell was on his knees. He sat down on the floor next to him. He did not say anything. He just sat there beside him, so that Wendell would not be alone on the floor of that bank. That was the moment Officer Dwight Hollis heard the sirens. He stood up straight. He smoothed his uniform. He thought it was a backup. He thought the cavalry had arrived. He even smiled a little. He was wrong. 3. Black SUVs pulled up to the curb outside First Heritage Bank. The doors flew open before the vehicles had fully stopped moving. 8 federal agents in dark blue raid jackets poured out onto the sidewalk. The letters FBI were stitched in bright yellow across the back of every jacket. The lead agent walked in front. She was shorter than the men around her. She did not need to be loud. The air around her did the loud part for her. Her name was Special Agent Renata Voss. She walked through the front doors of First Heritage Bank like she owned them. Because in about 90 seconds, functionally the lobby went silent. A different kind of silent this time. Not the silence of fear. The silence of a room understanding, all at once, that something enormous was about to happen. Voss did not look at Hollis first. She did not look at the manager's locked office door. She did not look at the crowd. She walked straight across the marble floor to where Wendell Carraway was on his knees with blood on his face, and an old man sitting beside him for company. Knelt down on the floor in front of Wendell. She put a hand on his shoulder, gently. "The way you touch someone you have just failed. Mr. Carraway, I am so sorry. Are you injured?" Wendell looked at her. Calm, steady. The same calm he had carried since he walked through the doors. "I am okay." "Agent Voss?" She nodded. She stood up. She turned very slowly to look at Officer Dwight Hollis. Hollis was still in the middle of figuring out what was happening. He squared his shoulders. He spoke with the confidence of a man who had not yet realized the floor under him was already gone. "Ma'am, this is a city police matter. You need to step back." Voss did not blink. "Officer Hollis." She knew his name. She had known his name for 2 weeks. She had read his entire personnel file. The morning after Wendell signed the cooperation agreement, she had known this exact man worked security in this exact lobby. She had warned Wendell. Wendell had said, "He cannot do anything to me. I am just a customer." She had not been able to argue with that. She had been wrong. Wendell had been wrong. Both of them had underestimated the simple, stupid violence of a man like Dwight Hollis. Officer Hollis, the man you have in handcuffs, is a federal cooperating witness in an active FBI investigation. The check you just called fraudulent is drawn on a federally monitored account. The wire transfer he was attempting to process is part of a sealed federal warrant operation you have just assaulted. On camera, in front of 40 witnesses with audio recorded by a federal informant inside this branch, a protected federal witness. The lobby was dead silent. Hollis tried to speak. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. He tried again. I did not. There was no way for me to know. Uncuff him. Hollis fumbled at his belt for the cuff keys. His hands were shaking. He could not find the right key. He tried 3 keys, none of them worked. Agent Terence Doby stepped forward, calmly took the entire keyring out of Hollis's hand, knelt down beside Wendell, and uncuffed him himself. Doby helped Wendell to his feet. He picked up the broken glasses from the floor and put them gently in Wendell's hand. One lens was cracked. Wendell folded them and put them in his shirt pocket. Voss turned to the lobby. Her voice was level, but it carried, "Everyone stay exactly where you are. This bank is now under federal seizure. Do not touch your phones. Do not leave. We will speak to each one of you individually before anyone walks out of this building." Then she turned back to Hollis. And this was the moment the whole morning had been moving toward. This was the moment 47 families would later watch on the news, without knowing yet that the man on his knees in that video had stolen from them for a decade. This was the moment Officer Dwight Hollis's 19-year career ended in the time it takes to say a single sentence. Officer Dwight Hollis, you are under arrest for assault of a federal witness, for deprivation of rights under color of law, for obstruction of a federal investigation, and for the 19 years of complaints in your personnel file that my office has been reading for the last 2 weeks while we built the rest of this case. Hollis's face went white. His legs went out from under him, not because anyone pushed him, just because his body could not hold him up anymore. He dropped to his knees on the same marble floor, where Wendell had bled 12 minutes earlier. Same floor, same spot. The symmetry was not subtle. It was not meant to be, "Ma'am, please, please, I have a wife, I have 2 kids, I did not know, I swear to God I did not know." Voss looked down. At him she was not angry anymore. She just looked tired and maybe a little sad. "Officer, you did not need to know who he was. You just needed to treat him like a human being." She nodded to Doby, cuffed Hollis on the marble floor. Hollis was crying openly now, tears running down his face. His nose was running, his hands were shaking behind his back. "Please, please, I was just doing my job, please." Calvin Royston, 68 years old, the old man Hollis had shoved 20 minutes earlier, walked up. He stood over Hollis. He looked down at him for a long second, then he said one sentence, "No, sir, you were not doing your job. You were doing what you always do. You just picked the wrong morning." Federal agents moved through the bank. 2 of them kicked Rupert Maddox's office door off the hinges. They found him at his shredder. They cuffed him in front of a pile of shredded documents that would be reassembled over the next 9 months by a forensic team in Birmingham. 3 other employees were arrested at their desks. Claudette Beaufort was not arrested. She was escorted out the front door by Agent Doby with a gentle hand on her back. She was shaking. She walked past Wendell on her way out. He looked at her. He said, "Thank you." She tried to speak. She could not. She just nodded and kept walking. Cecily Vandermeer, the woman in the workout clothes, the one who had given Wendell that small, tight look in line, walked up to him. Tears were running down her face. Her mascara was smeared. "I am so sorry, I am so sorry. I did not know who you were." Wendell looked at her. He was gentle, but he was also honest. "Ma'am, you did not need to know who I was, either." She opened her mouth. She closed it. She nodded. She walked away. She would think about that sentence for the rest of her life. She would tell her daughters about it years later. She would not tell them she had been the woman in the workout clothes. She would tell them she had been a witness. That was the part she would keep, the college student in the back. Bertie had a live stream that now had 1.4 million viewers watching in real time. By that night, the recording would have 80 million views across every platform on the internet, Officer Dwight Hollis's face, crying on the marble floor, would be on the front page of every newspaper in the country by morning. Outside the bank, news vans were already arriving. Voss did not let Wendell speak to any of them. She had him taken out the back of the building into a federal SUV. He went to the hospital. The cut above his eye needed 4 stitches. He had a mild concussion. He had bruises on his ribs and his wrists. They kept him for 3 hours. In the SUV on the way to the hospital, he finally took out his phone. He called his daughter Josephine. She answered on the first ring. She was crying. She had already seen the video. Half the kids at her school had seen it. He said, "Baby, I am okay. I am coming home." She cried. Harder, he told her he loved her. He told her her grandmother would have been proud. He hung up. He looked out the window, and then, for the first time all day, alone in the back seat of a federal vehicle moving through the streets of Tuscaloosa, Wendell Carraway cried. Quietly, he had earned it. 6 months later, in a federal courthouse in Birmingham, Wendell took the stand. He testified for 3 full days. He named names, he showed account numbers. He walked the jury through 47 lives that had been used as hiding places for dirty money. His testimony, combined with the documentary evidence the FBI seized from First Heritage that Tuesday morning, resulted in the indictment of 19 bank executives. The bank itself was dissolved by federal order. Its assets, just over $4.2 billion, were seized. Officer Dwight Hollis pleaded guilty rather than face a jury. He was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. His wife Sylvia filed for divorce 2 months into his sentence. She gave one short interview to a local reporter. She said one sentence and then refused to speak again. "I did not know who I married, now I do." Rupert Maddox cooperated with the government. He got 7 years. He was sent to a low-security facility in Kentucky, and he served every day of it. The 47 account holders whose names had been used in the laundering, every single one of them, were awarded restitution from the seized assets. The smallest payout was $180,000. The largest was $2.3 million. For most of those families, it was the first real money they had. Ever seen a grandmother in Pritchard used hers to pay off her house? A young father in West Tuscaloosa used this to send his twin daughters to college. Loretta Pickens, the young woman whose phone call had started all of it, used hers to buy her mother a small farm outside Selma, Claudette. Beaufort received a federal whistleblower award. She used part of it to enroll in nursing school. She had wanted to be a nurse. Since she was 10 years old, she had taken the job at First Heritage because it paid the bills. She graduated 3 years later. She works in a children's hospital in Birmingham, now Calvin Royston. The old man who sat down beside Wendell on the floor of that bank was invited to the courthouse on the last day of testimony. He sat in the front row. Wendell found him in the hallway after the verdict. They did not say much. Calvin put a hand on his shoulder. Wendell put a hand on Calvin's shoulder. They stood there for a minute. Then they went and got lunch at a diner across the street. The final morning, Wendell stood in his kitchen. Same kitchen, same mug, black coffee. Josephine was at the table doing homework. She is 18 now. She had been accepted to Spelman College. She would leave in the fall. He watched her for a moment. He thought about how close he had come to never coming home that Tuesday morning a year ago. He thought about Officer Dwight Hollis on his knees on the marble floor of First Heritage Bank. He thought about Calvin Royston sitting down beside him without being asked. He thought about Claudette Beaufort, 23 years old, hitting an alarm that nobody had told her she could hit yet. He thought about his mother in her cleaner's uniform, telling him that if he ever got something, he had to make sure other people got something too. He did not say anything. He just poured Josephine a glass of orange juice. She smiled up at him. He smiled back. If you have ever walked into a room and felt the air change because of the color of your skin, You already understood this story before I told it. You did not need the ending, you knew the ending the moment. Officer Hollis put his hand on Wendell's neck. The point of telling it anyway is that there are 47 families in Tuscaloosa whose lives are different now because one man would not put the briefcase down. And there is one young teller in Birmingham, in nursing scrubs, saving children's lives because she pressed an alarm at the right moment. And there is an old man named Calvin Royston who sat down on a cold marble floor beside a stranger so that the stranger would not be alone. Those are the names worth remembering, not the cops theirs. If this story moved you, tell me in the comments about the person in your own life who sat down beside you when nobody else would. That is the only thing I want to hear from you today. Their name. Say it out loud where somebody else can read it.